everyone. I'm Casey Tierney from the LegalTech Fund. Welcome back to another episode of In Studio. Today, I'm sitting down with Kory Kelly, CEO and founder of Legal Karma, a company helping enterprises unlock entirely new revenue streams through embeddable legal products. Legal Karma makes it easy for businesses to white label wills and trusts today directly into their platforms, turning what used to be a referral out into a revenue in. We're diving deep into how Legal Karma is shaping the future of embedded legal, what's working in the market, and the data points driving real traction. Kory, this is your first time recording with us, so welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Let's start with your background and what made you want to start this company in the first place.
Yeah, my background, is really uninteresting, unfortunately. I was a school teacher who broke bad and wanted more out of my life. That's the story of it. I'm never taken a business class, never went to law school. That's that I have a kind of a famous moment where I was like in office hours and I had a student who cheated on something and I was having to like contact the dean and I was just like, what am I doing with my life? And that was when I resigned from my role at the university and, freaked my family out and decided to go start a tech company that I knew nothing about how to do. So, fast forward 5 years, here we are. It's, been a journey. Um, why did we get into legal tech? My business partner, Mao, and I were childhood friends, and we're both really interested in building companies that maybe create more sustainable systems for the United States is, I guess, a way to put it. So neither of us have a legal background, but both of us, through our own life journeys, have experienced some sort of turbulence in that regard and in others. And so legal karma is just the first of many things I think we'll do together in our lifetime. But the path to getting legal karma to embeddable legal products certainly was not linear. That's not the original idea. We had, the same bad idea of doing some sort of Microsoft Word automation tool that I think most legal tech entrepreneurs go through at some point.
Well, I think that that's great. And to your point, you don't have a legal background, but you have interacted with the legal system. And I think most people can relate to that. And so I think it's definitely good that we have founders out there without a legal background too, because that outside perspective, I think, can be super valuable. And then, of course, you're right. The journey is never quite linear, but that's okay. That's what makes it. That's what makes it fun. I'm curious what you would say is broken today about the way that legal services are distributed, and if you think that embedded legal is sort of the opportunity to help solve some of that.
Well, I'll leave the lawyer to end consumer conversation for maybe someone who's smarter than I am about that. I think when it comes to direct to consumer legal tech, so things like, the greatest hits products that, we think of like business formations, wills and trusts, prenums, whatever, these things that are, everyone tries to do. I think it's really not a broken opportunity as far as the products go. I think it's a broken opportunity as far as the customer acquisition costs. I'm sure anybody that's pursued this has heard, has thought of what I'm about to say, which is finding the moment where you're going to capture a customer, when they have the tiny open window where they're considering getting a will or a trust or creating a new LLC or whatever it is really small and really hard to capture. And also they're not willing to pay very much.
Mm-hmm.
And so most direct-to-consumer legal tech companies spend money, if they're venture-backed, I bet that they're spending money to acquire those customers more than they're making it. So they're actually paying to generate estate plans or business formations. I think Legal Karma didn't, I'm sure my bicycle is a little bit different than everybody else's bicycle, but at the end of the day, it's a bicycle. I think I found just a better way to sell bicycles to people. And that new method is the distribution plan. So it's my thesis that banks and credit unions, these financial institutions are the, natural provider for legal in the United States. I think that, this legal product kind of path we've created in the last 20 years has also made an opportunity for those institutions to get in on it. And no one's ever approached them, with that. Like when I go to our financial institutions, I'm not approaching them with a rev share. I'm approaching them with a business opportunity.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it would be helpful too for those who are unfamiliar if you could go a little bit deeper into what it actually looks like for a financial institution or bank to embed sort of legal karma into their platform.
Yeah, so Legal Karma does, right now we do wills and trusts, but soon we're going to do business formations, prenums. Our whole model is we're going to take the greatest hits of direct to consumer legal and run it as an embedded play through FIs. So when an institution signs up with us, they get a handful of bits. They get the actual tech. It's an embeddable iframe, so it's a widget. It's designed to be white labeled. The Legal Karma brand is never front and center. It's a B2B brand. We train their staff. We put on webinars for their members. We have a huge affiliate marketing program that makes sure that they're seeing the traction that they need to see. And then there's a traditional customer success renewal element to the business.
Awesome. I think it is probably very helpful that you have people who are helping them on board in sort of a white glove way, because I think that's where we've seen other companies maybe fall down a bit, is when you don't have that great sort of customer success and partner enablement motions.
100%. I mean, I think people have this instinct that you're going to offer this thing and people are going to use it, and it has to be marketed and it has to be trained and it has to be sold, because it's legal. Direct consumer legal products are forever important, not urgent, until they are urgent, and then at that point it's too late. Nobody, like, the opportunity is missed. And so that convincing people to, like, creating urgency with their marketing teams is the only way that the business agreement between us and the financial institution would be successful.
And internally, I'm curious, what metrics do you track most closely that signal like success or product market fit to you?
And there's two ways I can answer that. There's with the direct relationship with the financial institutions, and then there's the actual deployment of the program at the FIs. Which one are you more interested in?
Whichever one is sort of the North Star for you all as a company.
Well, there's both, I guess. Maybe like inventory performance. And so Legal Karma makes all of our money up front with our financial institutions. And so it's like a true, like, renewal. So we always promise that they're going to see X return based on their investment with us. And so, like, making sure, like, how much ARR Legal Karma has versus how much will and trust revenue we're selling is on a trajectory of, we want our inventory outperforming the ARR that we bring in. So that's a really big one. With the financial institutions, I mean, I knew that I hit gold when I was just sending cold emails and booking nearly 20 demos a week with banks and credit unions. I mean, that's pretty. I've talked. Now I've been doing it for a handful of years. That's not the experience most folks have.
Yeah, definitely not. So you've got something, and when people are answering the cold emails, that's great. I also
Yeah.
think it is very important, like you said, there's ROI to the end financial institution, and sort of tracking how they're doing with your product is what you promise them, or try to provide them more on like the revenue side, or additional customers, or how are they best measuring that ROI on their end?
Revenue.
Revenue. So what kind of lift are they typically seeing? I guess this is a business line that was historically zero for most of them, right?
Yeah.
That's
Primarily operational. There's a little bit of secret sauce there that maybe
yeah.
I'd like to keep closer to the chest, but that was the opportunity. Like, exactly what you just clicked on there. That was what we figured out.
And then even direct to consumer legal is still legal and unfortunately or fortunately a bit regulated. How did Legal Karma navigate compliance and making sure that your partners feel confident and secure in the product that you're offering to their customer base?
Well, I feel like kind of, there's a like financial and, medical companies are truly regulated. Legal tech is kind of completely unregulated. Is that a reasonable deduction? Because like the only thing I have to concern myself with is drawing the line between education and unauthorized practice of law. Outside of that, I mean, I have to meet the bank's security standards, so we're SOC 2 and all that jazz. But I have a bit of a provocative opinion on this that I've given in the past that I think many folks didn't appreciate, which is I think the legal tech industry should be regulated. I think that would improve because then we can finally remove this, I think artificial barrier of, only law firms can offer advice. I think if the path to removing that line in the sand is regulation, I'm very pro that. And I think that's a very unpopular opinion, but it's certainly mine.
Well, I think
But
it's an interesting take, but I think your ultimate hope is that more people get legal services, right? So it's just more of a matter of like how that happens, you say?
100%, exactly right. I mean, you'll hear everybody in the legal tech space talk about this. It's kind of like when nurse practitioners were introduced to provide more affordable healthcare for doctors. And we see some folks doing it, like in, Utah and whatnot, but it's generally, I think, still so early.
It is early. I think we're with you though. I think we hope that it would go a bit faster and are certainly excited by the opportunities for technology to help more people and not just sort of the same people who already had access in the first place. So,
Yeah.
you talked a little bit about this earlier in terms of people answering your cold emails, which is awesome. But I'm curious, what has worked for getting your product in front of the right partners? I assume not every financial institution is equipped or incentivized to adopt this right now, or I could be wrong, but curious how you find the right partners.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of we have a lot of competitors in the space that have really been like pumping a lot of cash into awareness about estate planning, and I think we're riding the coattails of that really candidly. And then we're just showing up with a really good business plan. Um, so I think it was the right time, the right company. We have a flagship customer that has a huge revenue stream offering this to their members. And so we were able to kind of mascot them around in early days, and they were really, friendly and open to us doing that. And then, in a climate where adding new, what they call non-margin revenue streams, banks make most of their money off interest. They call that margin revenue. They're all interested in adding non-margin revenue. And so no one had ever knocked on their door because and offered them selling legal products because everyone just operated off of this perception that they wouldn't want to assume the risk. Well, it turns out there's totally a way to mitigate the risk in the contract. And so, when you point to another customer that's winning big doing it, and you're like, "Hey, I've removed all the barriers, and so can you." All the revenue leads and wealth management leads at these financial institutions are looking for big wins. They want to look good to their boss, and looking good looks like adding a new revenue stream. And so, when you can basically bring a guaranteed win, that's a no-brainer. Especially they're all getting requests for the products we offer every day that they're referring out to third parties. Um, it's just it was a swift gap to close.
And it'll be even better, I assume, when you add sort of those additional products that are on the roadmap too, right?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the reason that promise of future products is a lot of the reasons our customers are choosing us is because we're not just a will and trust offering, or we're not just a business formation offering. We're kind of touching multiple parts of I think what they all perceive the opportunity is.
Yeah, and I think we've already seen similar opportunities in like embedded finance and insurance, and we haven't quite seen embedded legal. take off the same way. So hopefully that's next, and you all can be leading the charge.
Yeah, I will certainly be on the front lines. I've had really low success getting into to other partnerships. I found that like any sort of like broker dealer relationship style institution really breaks down, at least with my model. So that's still maybe for everyone out there. If anyone's cracking, that, I'd love to talk about it. Or if anyone's experiencing the same struggle, that's certainly something that I have appetite to expand into.
And I have to ask, are you leveraging AI at all, sort of on the back end or front end for your product?
The users in the financial institutions really resonate with the message that our documents are curated with, drafting guardrails created by an attorney.
Hmm.
Um, that when their people chat with us, they talk to a real person. They're very apprehensive to substitute estate planning and other legal interactions with AI. That's been my current experience. So I perceive that we are currently um, uh, winning with that sales message. In fact, it's like saying we don't do that in this regard is I think appreciated because I think they maybe still don't mostly understand it, and so it's a selling point to say we don't do it. Now, under the hood with our sales, like our B2B sales motions, and maybe some of the review and compliance checks of the documents that go out to the end users, certainly. But with the front end facing product, so far I've found it to be um, uh, a differentiator in a positive way that we don't do that yet.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think it also illustrates how there is different ways to deploy it effectively. And right now, feels like customers want that trust factor that you're providing, that this is a real lawyer
Yeah,
that they, can trust, and they can trust their bank and they can trust you. But if you're
yeah,
able to also make, operations, things that are those stakes in the background, very good balance.
100%. We have a huge, corpus of data in our Salesforce that will run and get, B2B insights on how to sell better.
Mhm.
But as far as like the front end products, I don't know how to bring it up. I mean, everyone's really apprehensive about it in this specific regard. They don't want it. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think listening to your customer is always most important, right?
yeah.
Looking ahead, what does success look like for Legal Karma in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think maintaining that inventory performance, we currently maintain it and we're really proud that, we provide measurable return back to our partners. So the proof was in the pudding, and we delivered. So that feels good now. 3 years into being on this path. Um, I think really like the win for me would be actualizing, adding the different legal tech products through banks and credit unions. I mean, imagine a world where you can go to your bank and you can set up your LLC before you open your bank account or take out a commercial loan, or get commercial insurance, and then you can do your business succession planning through the institution. I mean, there's just so many natural connections. My business partner and I were setting out to change what we called the delivery of legal services. That was what we always wanted to do from the very beginning, and we failed a lot along the way. But now I think we finally found something that does. So a win for me is at the end of my tenure at Legal Karma, if a significant number of Americans now perceive their bank as a place they could go to get their legal needs met, I think I will have done what I set out to do 5 years ago.
That's awesome. And I think that it's great that you mentioned that you failed some along the way. If you could give any advice to other founders out there, or even people who are considering becoming a founder, what have you learned that you wish that you would have known earlier?
Oh man, saying I failed some along the way is just I failed so much and looked, I can't even describe it. So much learning. It's hard to say, you know, this is such an obvious answer. Just don't be afraid to pivot. But I think, like most founders, like especially certainly this was my story. I got so connected to an idea that I didn't at the time have the intellectual honesty to just look at what I was doing and realizing it wasn't working.
Mm.
And I think half of that was because uh, I didn't know what to do next. And I think it really wasn't until, like, nothing motivates, a man like the sight of the gallows. And so I think I really saw the end. Like, we were running out of money and there was no other option. And it put me in some sort of like fight or flight response. And not everybody chooses to fight, like
Yeah.
most people, like, you got to keep going even when there's seemingly no good reason to keep going. And I think for most people, it still doesn't work out, is the truth. And so I think everyone who is considering getting into starting some sort of business, you should know that for most people, it doesn't work out. And I think I got some version of lucky, for me on how it worked out. So that's certainly the truth.
Well, I think that's great advice. I think being realistic about the odds, but kind of doing it anyway, right? And then maybe
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with people who can help tell you when things are not working if you're not able to see it for yourself. It's great.
Yeah, that's a really good one to click on. I think that was, having the mentorship. Like, you need to have people who you don't employ who are way smarter than you and been there and done that, that are at least some sort of advisory role to you and that can give you really, really candid feedback. And you're in a position where you can listen to it.
Yeah.
Those things are hard to create. It's hard to find when you're when a junior first time green founder and you are looking for, amazing talent to advise you. That's a really rare connection. And I think most people don't get it. And so, yeah, if you, seek that out with, like that, yeah, I think that's a really good add-on.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story. I know everybody's going to learn a lot and you probably inspired some future founders along the way. So thank you so much for joining us in studio, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Casey.